Tomorrow morning, your alarm will ring. Not because your body has finished sleeping, not because the sun has risen, not because you're ready to wake up, but because someone, somewhere, expects you to be awake at exactly that time. You'll reach for your phone almost automatically. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already somewhere else. Unread emails, messages, deadlines, the weather, the news, bills that still need paying, tasks you forgot yesterday. Your day hasn't even begun. Yet somehow, it already feels like it belongs to everyone except you. You hurry through breakfast, or maybe you skip it entirely. You sit in traffic, or squeeze onto a crowded train, or open your laptop from the same desk you've been staring at for years. Then the clock starts. 8 hours, maybe 10, sometimes 12. Every hour is already accounted for. Someone else decides what matters. Someone else decides what gets done first. Someone else decides when you can stop. By the time evening arrives, you're exhausted. Not necessarily because the work was physically difficult, but because your attention has been rented out all day. So you finally get home. You eat dinner. Watch something for a while. Scroll without really looking. Tell yourself tomorrow you'll start exercising. Read that book. Learn that skill. Call that friend. Get more sleep. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Then your alarm rings again, and the entire cycle repeats, for years. Eventually, decades. If you're lucky, one day you'll retire. Only then are you finally free to decide what to do with your own time. It's such a familiar routine that almost nobody questions it, because this is simply what adults do. You grow up, you find a career, you work, you retire. That's life. At least, that's what you've been told. But here's something strange. If every human being disappeared tomorrow, and another intelligent species dug up the remains of our civilization 100,000 years from now, they'd probably conclude that work defined who we were. Our office buildings would still be standing, factories, corporate headquarters, business districts, millions of computers, millions of calendars, millions of clocks. Everything would suggest one simple conclusion. Humans live to work. But if that same species dug just a little deeper, past the concrete, past the steel, past the cities, they'd discover something completely different. For almost all of human history, none of this existed. No offices, no companies, no salaries, no resumes, no weekends, no retirement, no employment. Not because people were lazy, not because they had easier lives, but because the very idea of having a job hadn't been invented yet. Think about that. Your entire life revolves around something your species lived without for nearly 300,000 years. Jobs aren't ancient. They're incredibly new. Which raises a question that's surprisingly difficult to answer. If people didn't wake up for work, what exactly did they wake up for? Did they spend every hour hunting? Did they constantly run from predators? Did survival consume every moment of every day? That's certainly the picture most of us imagine. It seems obvious. After all, life without supermarkets or hospitals must have been unbelievably difficult. Wouldn't every day have been a desperate fight to stay alive? The surprising answer is no. And we know this for several reasons. Not because historians guessed, not because philosophers imagined it, but because archaeology, anthropology, and biology all point toward the same conclusion. Over the last century, researchers have studied some of the last hunter-gatherer societies still living on Earth. Groups whose way of life closely resembles how humans lived long before agriculture. At the same time, archaeologists have uncovered ancient campsites, tools, artwork, musical instruments, and human skeletons stretching back tens of thousands of years. Individually, each discovery tells a small story. Together, they reveal something remarkable. Your ancestors may not have spent most of their lives working at all. In fact, They may have spent far more of their lives doing something modern humans are constantly trying to squeeze into whatever time remains: talking, playing, creating, resting, teaching, exploring, making music, watching children grow, simply being together. Which raises an even bigger question. If humans lived like that for almost all of our existence, then when did everything change? And perhaps more importantly, why? To answer that, you have to forget everything you think you know about prehistoric life. Forget the caveman stereotypes. Forget the movies. Forget the idea that every sunrise meant another desperate battle for survival. Instead, imagine opening your eyes 30,000 years ago. The fire from last night is still warm. Someone is already awake, quietly adding another piece of wood. Children are beginning to stir. You hear birds instead of traffic. Nobody checks the time. Nobody has a meeting in 30 minutes. Nobody wonders whether they're being productive enough. You stretch. Look around and ask yourself the same question every human asked for hundreds of thousands of years. What should I do today?